With a number of COVID-19 cases on the rise throughout the state of Texas, there have been more and more requests regarding the upcoming school year. While we still don't have all the answers, we'll be publishing episodes weekly to provide what information we do have and keep you updated on the 2021 school year. I'm Andrew Kim, Superintendent of Schools for the Comal Independent School District, and joining me today is our Assistant Superintendent of Maintenance, Facilities, and all things construction, Michael McCullar, and we also have our Executive Director, or I should say Chief Information Officer, Travis Brown, here with us. Thank you guys for joining. I know it's a pretty busy time of the year. You guys are busy all the time right now. I know you're up here on Saturdays and Sundays taking care of things. So let's kind of give everybody a sense of just general understanding about what's going on in the world of technology. And I think sometimes we mistake technology with just laptops or iPads. But really, there's a whole set of things that are going on behind the scenes related to what we consider technology. And that's the sort of the infrastructure, the network. This is something I'm still trying to learn, right? I think we take having internet nowadays almost like having water delivered to our house through the faucet, you know what I mean? Plumbing, right? It's just like when you turn the faucet on, the water is there.
Right.
So we just kind of take it for granted. Let's talk about that. So what's the sort of the plumbing that's required for internet activity to occur in schools?
Yeah, the plumbing primarily right now, the way that people connect is going to be wirelessly. And that's wireless from their computer to what's called an access point. And most people have one of those in their house, their Wi-Fi. And then there's cabling between that access point and what's called a network switch. And that controls the traffic. And then after that network switch, you have some sort of firewall that connects you or protects you from the outside internet world.
And then once you get through the firewall, then you're basically out into the internet.
The Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it's the Wild Wild West. And then, but you go then into the what's known as the fiber optics for us in our school district.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You know, the analogy that I've been kind of talking about with people is that we have a 20-lane highway.
Right.
So that's the fiber optics. So we can go on that. We have plenty of room for traffic to get on it. But the problem is we have potentially a caliche trail on-ramp onto that highway. And we're now asking 50 cars to get on that highway all at once. So that's the chokehold. I think that's the access point that we're talking about, right?
Yes. So what we've been doing there is reconfiguring a few things and updating some of the cabling standards between equipment to make sure that it's the most optimized experience with what we have.
Yeah, so it all depends on, like, you know, if you use a certain different platforms like Google Meets or whatever else, or if you're using to YouTube, it takes a lot more bandwidth versus something else that doesn't take as much bandwidth. So then that has a lot of effect on that sort of that on-ramp situation.
That's absolutely correct. That's a great way to state it,
Yeah. So we've been working on that quite a bit. And, you know, it's one thing to download while you're in school to research and do stuff, but then to upload is a whole nother ballgame. Am I right on that?
You are. The upload experience is a little bit more challenging sometimes because the internet is really made as a consumption environment where you're pulling web traffic down and you're reading or watching a video, but to upload becomes a different experience because the platforms that we interact with are mainly made for bringing it down.
So I think that's not readily, you know, understood though, you know what I mean? Because, like, you know, at the house sometimes where I live, downloading, like, you see, like, start the spinning wheel, if you will, right?
Right.
But sometimes it happens when some of these, like Netflix or Hulu or whatever, it just takes forever.
That's because there's so many components between Netflix or YouTube and all of the internet service providers like Charter or Time Warner and all of the cabling that gets into your house, then your Wi-Fi, and then your computer. So there's a lot of opportunities for something to be out of sync. And to use your analogy of the water pipes, right? The water flows one way. The electricity flows towards your house when you turn your lights on. You generally don't feed water back into the water system or electricity back into the system.
So really, you know, those places that are broadcast centers are designed to upload, but our schools are not necessarily designed to upload. That was never conceived until now.
Yes, that's correct, right? So COVID changed the way that we interact with the internet all the way around. And like every school district, we've had to respond to that.
Yeah. And part of that is because now we have a potential certain percentage of population of kids going to be remote learners. And so as a result of that, they're going to have to now download stuff that is going to be emanating out of our schools
Right.
to their homes. So as a result of that, then our schools essentially become now broadcast centers, or has to become broadcast centers. And so it's never infrastructurally designed that way from a network perspective. And that's where we're making the switches.
Yes, and that's where we're making all of these changes and adjusting all those individual components that I was talking about, the switches and firewall, to accommodate that exact scenario.
Where are we on that? How far are we on that? I know we've been, like I said, working on the weekends and weekdays, and because I know personally, because I've been up here watching you guys work.
Well, we're at about 80% completion on those 3 high schools right now that are being remediated.
Yeah.
4th high school is obviously new, so it didn't need as much adjustment. So we've been working very hard on that to make sure that's ready, and then after that, we'll move our focus to the other campuses.
And in some sense, the listeners may get a little bit confused, because I know I would be. Like, well, how was it possible that we were able to be able to do this stuff the last 10 weeks of the 1920 school year? And frankly, what happened was that everybody was doing it out of their home. So really, teachers were using their home bandwidth, home access points to basically Google Meet out or Seesaw Pro out, whatever, from the home situation, using their own home device situation there.
Yeah, so it was basically each individual teacher, or about 1,700 to 1,800 individual internet connections, versus what our school district currently has, which is 1 internet connection, but we will be bringing in a second internet connection.
Yeah. And I know I heard from a lot of teachers, because some of our teachers live in remote areas or rural areas of our county and places. And they really didn't have much of an internet accessibility for themselves to be able to do the work. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because I think that while we certainly are going to try to make sure that remote education is on par with on campus, I think it's safe to say, to be quite honest, that there are challenges to the remote learning process. And so one of the things that the school district has done is to put out a remote parent checklist, which is available on our Comal Parent Center. It's a little checklist that has a home learning environment. These are the things that you need to do, resources for remote learning, and technology ready for remote learning. And we also gave some spec sheets called the technology requirement for remote learning. Can we talk about that? Make sure that parents understand what all those things mean, because sometimes I get confused with all the megahertz stuff and this and so on, so on, so on.
Oh, yeah. Let's simplify it and then we can get into it. So simply, if you've got a newer computer that you picked up at one of the local big box stores, you're going to be good to go as long as you have a camera to do that interaction for remote learning. If you're using something that's at home, we've provided the technical specifications.
Yeah, but we don't need every parent going out there and buying the most fancy, most expensive device if they want to buy one for their kid.
That's
right?
A good point, right? So I guess a better way to say it from my point would be, if you've bought it in the last 3 years or so, then you're going to be good to go.
What I noticed, though, is that you got to have a device that has some production capability, so a keyboard. I think because just having a sort of a device like an iPad or tablet, I think is not the way to go, in my personal opinion. I mean, some thoughts on that?
Yeah, whenever I'm asked about this, I always share that if the device that you have available at home is your cell phone, or if you have an iPad or a tablet along those lines, I recommend that you go and acquire a Bluetooth keyboard so that you can do the production aspect of things, because it's too wearing on the fingers to try to swipe or type in those.
Yeah. Well, and for the last 10 weeks of school, what parents, are gotten used to is that because we weren't stringent and rigorous about taking grades or work, I think it worked okay. But now, going into the 2021 school year, we are going to be taking grades. It will be a little bit more rigorous. And so there's going to be work that has to be turned in. So trying to do that on a phone, I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I don't see how they can produce the same quality. I don't think they'll meet their potential.
Right. But you can, observe and listen and look on a phone. I mean, obviously, if you're okay with that kind of a device, small screen. But trying to produce something. I know some students that I've worked with last school year who were using mainly their phones to do that work. So somehow or another, we're going to need to figure that out and provide them support.
And I also recommend that people have a keyboard, even if they are using a phone or an iPad. Generally, it's going to help out with their posture, so you're going to be less fatigued when trying to type out these things. And those are some of the small things that I think make a difference.
And we also gave some guidance in this technology requirement for remote learners. So this is really more of a checklist, 2 documents to give parents some additional information about, hey, I'm going to choose remote learning, which we are grateful that parents are thinking about that. So if you're going to do it, though, these are some potential minimal requirements that you want to consider and take care of those. And I think one of the information that we provided also is the internet accessibility or requirement at the house. So if you don't have that, we can certainly provide some additional resources, perhaps.
Absolutely. And there are minimum requirements of dedicated internet bandwidth per user. So if you're watching Netflix while your student is downloading or watching the videos, and you kind of have a competing bandwidth situation. So you do need to make sure that you're setting aside that time to make sure that your student has that available.
Yeah. And this is why I think we make sure that our curriculum is designed to be asynchronous if it has to be the case. Because I know that there are going to be some competing issues where, an older sibling with a younger sibling on the same time. So if they can, it will be recorded, uploaded so they can watch it and do it on their own time. And so the asynchronous or the just independent work that they can do throughout the day on their own is going to be something that we're going to offer as well, too, as a result of that. So in terms of families who may need support, we sure had a lot of families who did let us know. And we're very fortunate, though, in the Comal Independent School District that many of our parents, in fact, our recent survey showed, I think somewhere around 76%, 75% of our parents had at least one device at home. But certainly we have others who may need some additional or definitely need at least one more device. And we've actually done that through our technology checkout program. So we initiated this last school year. How many did we check out?
So the total number of devices we issued in the spring, computers, was 2,238. We issued 258 wireless access points for student use. We allowed those students to keep those devices over the summer in order to take advantage of the summer learning opportunities. And so we anticipate that some of those students still have those devices, will potentially be virtual students as well.
Yeah. And certainly we're checking upon them to make sure that everything's ready to go. So with obviously starting of the school year, we may need more. So we are preparing to release another technology checkout program. And so kind of describe what that's going to be like.
So because of the success of the TCPs, we're calling it, in the spring, we're modeling the fall process in a similar fashion. We'll have a call center that will accept calls starting on August 12th through August 27th. Operating hours 7:30 to 4:30 every day.
And we're going to post that so people don't have to listen to this podcast to listen to that date.
Right. So during that call center, we'll take appointments from parents. We will ask that they have some information, and that will also be posted in the upcoming document. We'll have appointments at 4 different campuses: Canyon High School, Canyon Lake, Smithson Valley, and Davenport High School. In addition, we'll have a distribution week at the Support Services building for any of the students that were not able to make the appointments at those campuses.
One of the big things that came out, Mike and Travis, was many of our parents had at least one device, but they have, multiple kids. And we gotten some calls to say, hey, listen, I got one device, but I got 3 kids. So can I get another one? Can I check out one? So what's our response to that? Because we come up with a solution for this.
Right. So the way we're going to start out is making sure that every student that needs access to a device has that access first. And so we'll be monitoring the data that's come in as far as which students do not have any access. We'll also be logging the number of requests for additional devices within the household. Once we see the data trend tells us that the students in need have those devices, we will come back as a second round and do callbacks to those parents that are requesting additional devices. And so we'll work through that process as the numbers come in.
So we'll be intensely trying to figure that out in the first couple weeks of school, really, leading up to it, really, and then the first week of school trying to go and figure out who needs what at that particular point. Because those who are choosing to go remote, we want to make sure that they're ready to go on the first day of school. So that's going to be a lot of work. We've also heard about, supply chain issues with availability of these Chromebooks and whatnot. So we've been working with the state of Texas on a co-op to purchase bulk So kind of describe what that is for parents. I know that's kind of behind the scenes information here.
Sure. Right now, TEA has what they're calling Operation Connectivity, and what this is a bulk purchase with the entire state of Texas, and we're requesting just over 2,000 computers with them at a discounted rate since it's such a large order for the state of Texas. So, and then also some additional MiFis as well.
Yeah.
There is a delay in the supply chain, so it is a 10-week delay.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That's crazy. But we should get double the number what we anticipate if this all comes to fruition.
That's correct. Due to this co-op that we are working with, it did double our capacity to purchase devices.
Yeah. So we are working fast on that, and obviously the state of Texas is working on that issue. So that will be a good thing. You mentioned earlier about cybersecurity. I know, we're always worrying about that to make sure if I check out a device from the district, is my device secure?
Yeah, we actually approach this in two ways. So if you check out your computer with the district, then yes, we are filtering that particular computer, not your internet at home. However, if you are a family that's in need of connectivity and we assign a MiFi to you, that is actually filtered as well in accordance with federal law, SIPA and FERPA laws as well. So
okay, good. And, I've heard a lot about sort of this thing called Zoom bombing or people getting in and whatnot. So some security measures on that? I mean, what are some thoughts on those? Because I know that I've heard it here and there.
Guidance to our teachers as far as a best practice of whom to allow into your meeting, how to control which students or other co-teachers would be into that meeting is the best avenue.
Yeah. And I think we also traced down a situation where it was unintentional, but the teacher was using a certain website to use as a research space, but then that brought in some other stuff in. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah. So I think sometimes, we try to vet as many things, but I mean, teachers have a lot of things at their fingertips now to use. And so we're trying to teach our teachers to be very cautious about various places that might, bring in additional ads or ways for some inappropriate things to come in.
Luckily, we have a very modern, very state-of-the-art security system where the antivirus, the firewalls, all the email security, they actually all talk to each other so they can recognize trends and respond very quickly to identify malicious sites. So it's very forgiving for some of these new sites, but also very active in terms of being able to block the more malicious sites.
Well, and I do want to just, validate that because I know the other side of that coin is that I think I get, a lot of, I don't want to say complaints, but a lot of teachers saying, hey, this is blocked, this is blocked, this is blocked, this is blocked. So a lot of things are blocked actually more so than actually we let in. So, so I think that's something to just, and we like to keep it tight. I mean, we rather block things rather than open it up to general everything.
Through our process, one of the things that we do is we actually have the vetted, approved applications that the school district is supporting, and so those are definitely allowed.
Yeah.
So as long as we're staying with those,
you'll
definitely have a good experience. But then we're more than happy to unblock those legitimate websites that are erroneously blocked.
And, going into the instructional side of things, I know teachers are going to be asking, hey, listen, how am I going to be able to record myself teaching so that it becomes a recording for others or live? So we've been purchasing a lot of tertiary devices, I guess, that fits in. So let's kind of talk about that just a tad bit.
Sure. So what we've done is using the resources that we have available. We don't want to go out and purchase new solutions because there are supply chain issues. So we've come up with a great solution, in my opinion, where we're actually tethering the iPad to the
teacher iPad.
The teacher iPad to the teacher's device. And they're using that as sort of a virtual whiteboard and then projecting that up on the screen for the students. And then through that process, the remote learners can actually see what's being projected up on the whiteboard as well.
Yeah, so from a remote learner perspective, I'm only seeing the whiteboard that's talking through the problems or issues or the audio that comes with that. So to me, audio is very important.
Right.
And then, of course, the whiteboard, watching that I think is very important.
Yeah.
Right. And to the audio perspective, we've also purchased some equipment too, I think.
Yes, what we did was we purchased some 20-foot lapel mics that clip onto your shirt, tie into your computer so that the audio is directed most from the teacher right there so that we get the clearest audio that we can get.
Yeah. And, we're going to be producing some videos, I know, to demonstrate what this is going to be like as a model. I think with the social distancing rules and different things, we're going to have teachers sort of fixed in a certain spot in the classroom. So they're not going to be able to roam around like they would pre-COVID time, which just goes against the total grain of what we've been training for the last 10, 15 years about, roaming around, being available, right? And being the facilitator in the classroom. Now, we're going back to some degree where you're kind of lecturing from a corner of the room to all the kids who are in fixed positions to some degree. And so in that regard, having that device you just mentioned, just being in that, not being carrying around with you, I think is an appropriate time at this point. Hopefully this will be a temporary solution. I hope, this whole COVID situation will be lifted, at some point, right? So, but I think we do have a good solution to that.
Yeah, and we've done everything we can. Like, we even went above and beyond to purchase those longer cables to at least give the teachers some
room.
Flexibility.
Yeah, some flexibility in the classroom, yeah. But once again, it'd be hard to determine that by the number of kids that are in that classroom. Certainly we'll have less kids because we're going to have a percentage of kids choosing remote learning. But certainly we still have to be very mindful about that situation there. So once again, I think certainly it's not a perfect situation, but I got to tell you, I really am appreciative of the fact that we're working fast as possible to get this thing going. So it's a lot of things behind the scenes that it's not just about buying a Chromebook and issuing it out and here you go. But there's a lot of things related to that we're going to need to go and take care of. So we have a few weeks left and hopefully we can get it done before, everything gets back on track here. But I appreciate you guys very much. You've been listening to Comal ISD Radio. Join us next time as we talk about asynchronous, synchronous learning, special ed, special programs, dyslexic programs, as well as GT programs, and information related to, once again, our guidance with health and safety. And we'll bring you more information about what, once again, a day in the life of a student may look like going forward. So look forward to additional Comal ISD Radio podcasts. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.